Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be my October reading wrap up. So all 7 of the books I read in the month of October before hopping too far into it. Hello, my name is Emily. This is MacInnis Mama, where you will find mostly bookish content with the occasional gardening or motherhood style video thrown in there. So do not be alarmed if you see a gardening video in your subscription feed and you're here for the books. I upload mostly bookish content, but I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel. To be honest, I was a touch disappointed that I only got to 7 books in the month of October. Some of them were very, very long and others were very short. I did hit over 75 books read for the year, and it got me thinking, like, if I really push myself, could I get to 100 books for the year? That'd be very exciting for me. My goal was 50 and I have surpassed that by 50%. Hello, Wyatt. What are you doing? But overall, I really loved most of the books that I read in the month, so I will call that a success. But hopefully for my November and December reading wrap-ups, you will be seeing more books, 12 to 13 each month, if I could be so lucky. I need to stop rambling. Let's hop into it. The first book that I read in October was A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. My friend Sam and I are continuing our buddy read, and this is for me also along with Hannah's recent reads and Christina's chapters. They're doing like a read along, I guess. So I've been watching their live show, as this is the first time I read this book. I did read ACOTAR many years ago and reread it last month, and I've been continuing the series and having a blast. I did rate this book 4.5 stars. I know that this is Hannah's favorite book of all time, and I love that for her. I had a great time reading this, except I think there was 2 or 3 points, I'm a little fuzzy on the details now, where it was extremely info dumpy. Like the inner circle is getting together to just chat for a very long time, like many pages, and it was just like backstory and info dumping, which did hinder my enjoyment a little bit. I'm sure everybody knows what this series is about. This is where it gets, like, the romance gets good, is in this book, which I completely understand, and there's a lot of character development in here. I really enjoyed my time. I gave it 4.5 stars. I then read Scarlet Angel by S.T. Abbey. This is the 3rd book in the Mindfuck series. I gave this 4 stars as well. This series is a lot of fun, and I want to be mindful of completing the series this year because I do enjoy it so much. There are 5 parts. They're very short. They're like novella length, and you're following a female serial killer who is dating an FBI profiler who is trying to find her, but like he doesn't know it's her, So it's like there's shenanigans, there's a revenge plot, and you're really rooting for our female serial killer because she's killing some very bad men, and all the power to her. You probably shouldn't feel that way, but that's how I feel. And this one just continues to be a joy to read. I like that there is a thicker plot. I like that our female serial killer is also in a bit of danger. Like there's other things going on outside of just the romance. I thought this would be more of like a romance series, but the romance part is a little bit on the sidelines. Like it's more Criminal Minds-ish, except for you're getting the FBI profiler point of view, like Criminal Minds, but you're also getting the serial killer point of view. Like there's danger and suspense, but then it's also a bit spicy. I don't want to say any more than this because this is part 3 out of 5, but I'm liking where we're going, where we ended, and I can't wait to jump into the 4th book because I think it's going to be very chaotic. I then read Gleam by Raven Kennedy. This is the 3rd book in the Plated Prisoner series. I am happy to see that this is back on KU. So I find indie books can be, not all of them, but can be a a little more pricey. Worth the investment if you really enjoy the series, which I do. I gave this 5 stars, a hesitant 5 stars. It's like a 4.5. This is where the romance is solidified. This is a fantasy romance series, King Midas retelling. There's a lot of dark topics discussed in this series, so definitely check trigger warnings. If there are topics you are sensitive to reading, this is where the romance really starts to kick off. This is where we have consent. This is where we get some spicy scenes. And I thoroughly enjoyed my time reading this. I was flipping the pages. I read it so fast, but then I finished and I looked at how chunky this book was. It is almost 700 pages. And I was like, what all happened in here? What warranted almost 700 pages? Going back, it was very day to day. She's walking around here. She's going to do this. She's blah, 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 talking to these people, which is great. It moved the plot forward a little bit. And like I said, I enjoyed my time reading it the whole way through. But thinking back on the plot part, where we started at the beginning of this book and where we are at the end of this book, I felt like, couldn't this have been half the size? We would have been missing some of the angst, some of the drama, all those things, yes. I don't know. I still really loved it. I marked it as 5 stars on Goodreads. I then read A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas. Clearly, these are some chunky books, okay? This is the 3rd book in the ACOTAR series. I should scooch over a little bit because I actually don't own a copy of this, but I will someday. I gave this book 5 stars. I preferred A Court of Wings and Ruin over A Court of Mist and Fury. I don't know. I'm almost positive that is an unpopular opinion, but I almost said as a mostly adult fantasy reader, not like a fantasy romance reader, which I don't know if that's true anymore. I actually have to look. I'm excited for the end of the year for end of year wrap up videos to kind of deep dive on the statistics of my reading this year, because I've evolved a lot in my reading taste this year, which has been fun. But the political maneuverings, the war, I found fascinating. Battle scenes, politics, all of that, I really loved. We also have a lot of character and relationship development happening alongside, and there's still the romance. There were a few things that irked me. One thing in fantasy romance that I really hate, clearly it didn't overshadow my enjoyment too much of this book, but it's the our adrenaline is so high because we just had this big battle, blah, blah, blah. We need to smash. Right now, people are dying. We're full of blood and sweat and guts. Now's the time for a spicy scene. Wouldn't be me. That's all I'm going to say. Wouldn't be me. I then read Black Sunshine, the first book in the Dark Eyes duet. This is by Karina Halley. This is a paranormal romance, a vampire paranormal romance. There are vampires and witches in this world, and our main character grew up with parents that were witches, but something happens when she starts coming of age. She gets kidnapped. It's captor-captive. She gets kidnapped by a vampire, and then he is the love interest. I gave this book 3 stars. I enjoyed it for the most part while reading it, but there were certain things that I really don't like, and I think this is a problem with paranormal romances for me. But see, in ACOTAR, Rhysand's 500 years old and Feyre is 20. And it doesn't bother me then, but the difference, this is a key difference. I can get past the, oh, he's a vampire, oh, he's Fey, he's so old, blah, blah, blah. Same with Throne of Glass, you get the idea. The difference with this book was, he said, As soon as I laid eyes on you when you were 2 years old, I knew you were mine, and I waited until you were 21. I'm sorry. That's taking it too far. That that's some Twilight shit right there that I just don't like. I've been watching you since you were a toddler and knew I couldn't wait to have you. Kind of skeeved me out, honestly. Like a 3 was very generous because, like I said, I usually rate based off enjoyment, and like that part definitely like took me back. But overall, I still enjoyed the story. I also just never, like on page, didn't see this like turn of events for them getting together. It was like, yeah, it was captor captive, which has been done better by others. I've read better where there's like a progression of their relationship on both sides. That, like, I've been watching you is like the reasoning, but it was like they had no connection, no relationship, and then he was going to auction her off to the highest bidder. And then all of a sudden, he's like, of course you're mine. I'm never letting you go. But there was no reason on page, like no events that happened on page for that. Am I making any sense? Probably not. Moving on, then I read Sanctum by Hannah McBride. I loved this so much and I was so surprised. I did give this 4 stars, and I feel like I could give books further in the series a 5-star. And this is another paranormal romance, but involving shifters. So there is like pack politics and stuff in here. And again, check trigger warnings because the content in here is quite a lot. Some people are saying this is YA, which I didn't know when I started reading it, but I have heard since. I don't agree with that. I would call it new adult. It is partially set in a high school setting, but the content in here is not YA. It's just that our characters are like 17. Our main character grows up as an Omega in their pack. They are a part of a very awful pack, and Omegas are basically treated like the pack's whores. They can do whatever they want whenever they want to them. And that's how she grows up. And eventually she goes to like a different high school where it's like, fated mates situation. And it's not as spicy as it could have been, but I'm also glad for that because of their ages. I don't think high school steamy romances are for me. I just don't really have any interest in reading about teenagers doing dirty things, if you know what I mean. But I loved all the characters in here. It's like very found family. I mean, it's pack mentality, but I don't even have the words to articulate what I mean. I liked it way more than I thought. Like I said, I want to continue. There is an underlying like mystery plot at the back end of this. Like people are going missing, and the epilogue kind of clues into that. So I think that's what the second book is going to be about a little bit more, which is interesting. And I'm excited to see how our hero and heroine's relationship evolves as well, because like I said, they are so young yet are fated mates, which is very interesting. I don't think I'm selling you on this book. I don't know how much to say beyond that. I really enjoyed it. And lastly, in October, I read A Court of Frost and Starlight by Sarah J. Maas. This is the winter solstice novella. Yes, I understand that this was plotless. Yes, I understand people who say this was just a cash grab on the publisher's part, but I enjoyed it nonetheless. I did give this 5 stars. I just loved spending time with the inner circle. It's winter solstice, which is like Christmas, They're getting together over like dinner and wine and presents, and everyone is shopping for gifts. And Nesta and Cassian are fighting, which is always fun to read. And it was just fun. It was 200 pages of a fun, cozy time, and I really enjoyed it. So those were all of the 7 books that I read in the month of October. Many of those were well over 500 pages. So when I think about it like that, I'm pretty happy with my month's reading. I didn't really read too many spooky Halloween things. Black Sunshine and Sanctum were kind of my homage to spooky season with like paranormal romance, which I had a great time doing. But I wish I would have fit in a thriller or two, tested out the horror genre. Let me know in the comments down below what your favorite book of October was. Give this video a thumbs up if you did enjoy it, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!